I'm in the BBC Council chamber where we've just finished a very buzzy meeting with a bunch of London bloggers. And I think it's the first time that the BBC and London bloggers have actually got together. The meeting's been organised by Hugh, Flouch, Network Neighbourhoods. How did you manage this, Hugh? What have we been talking about?
Well, I got into conversation with the BBC, who are very keen to find ways to publicise the BBC's digital help scheme, which will support the digital switchover that's, as many people know, is coming very soon. And I'm a passionate believer in the power of local websites to connect with communities. In fact, as the research that we did at Network Neighbourhoods showed last year, they are now the primary way that people who use websites find out information about their local community. So we got together and we organised this event at the BBC, primarily to support that digital switchover help scheme. But there was another interest in me, is about how can we begin to build a stronger network of local websites in London, and how can we begin to build a relationship with the BBC, perhaps supporting the public service work that local websites do. I'm really glad to have the passionate support of Maggie Philbin in that, and also the support of Sam and Liam at the BBC Digital Help Scheme. So,
Samantha Latouche, you're responsible regionally for making all of this work. What's involved?
Well, basically, we write to everyone who's eligible to get the help to switch over with the help scheme. And we know that for some people, switchover is going to be a really easy thing to do. But for older and disabled people, they might struggle. We felt that the local neighbourhood networks sites are going to be very invaluable because they know their neighbourhoods better than anyone. And just by working in partnership to lend that helping hand, to remember people who might be eligible for the help but may have ignored their letters to date, to kind of give them a little nudge to say that this help is available.
And Maggie Philbin, Maggie, you've been around the country acting as evangelist ambassador for this scheme, and you were telling us stories about the importance of postmen and taxi drivers. How do you get the word, or help people get the word out locally?
Well, it is by making everybody understand how important they are in terms of making sure that no one gets left behind with switchover. So, I mean, you mentioned the postman there. I went up to Shetland when they were switching, and one local postman made an extraordinary difference, because once the leaflets from the help scheme had gone through the door, he would knock on people's doors who were eligible and say, now, remember, you've got to respond to this, you know, and it's a really good scheme. And so he really supported the scheme and helped people understand that this leaflet, that many people chuck in the bin or they think is too good to be true, was something that could make switchover a really easy process for them. So he made a remarkable difference. And the thing that's become really obvious to me as I've gone around the country is that if you've got your digital telly, you tend to be quite selfish in your thinking. So the messages about switchover just go straight over your head because you think it doesn't matter. So you have to ask that next question, which is, do you know anyone who you think might not have a flat screen telly or might not have a digibox? And then people start to think, oh, actually, you know, maybe my uncle or maybe, you know, the lady next door but one. And then they begin to see that they could play a role. And there was a taxi driver, as you say, who was taking me from the station to somewhere where I was due to do a radio interview about that. And in the space of that journey, he went from like utter indifference because he'd got a telly to saying, look, I tell you what, if I wait here, could you bring me down some leaflets? And I took him a whole box of leaflets about the scheme, and he became one of our most powerful ambassadors.
And you were making some personal connections between where you live in Chiswick and the use of the local site there. Do you think that local blog sites, local community websites are making a real difference in neighbourhoods?
Oh, heavens, yes. I mean, I go onto my local website, which is chiswickw4.com, at least once a day. And if I'm working from home, it's slightly more, because there is something rather addictive about checking up what's going on. And so I know it doesn't matter whether you've lost your cat, whether there's been some horrendous tragedy, but if I want to know more about it, I know that the website will be covering it and the forum will cover it. And so they're a really powerful source of local news and the place that you turn to. And so for me, I mean, you know, sitting around this table today was this absolute golden resource across London of the people who know their areas, and no matter how hard you try, as the BBC is a big organisation, you cannot know it as well as the people who are here in this room. And so tapping into that knowledge is a really useful thing for the BBC to be able to do. But also you hope that it can be reciprocal and that it can go both ways. So that's my hope.
And just back to that opportunity for the network, Hugh, because it's great to find this overlap of interest between the BBC and the local bloggers, something quite a few people have been looking for, and it looks as though you might have clicked it here. And is there a way, do you think, in which a network like this could work together so that even though local websites find it difficult to continue, if they're part of a network and they can offer some value to BBC and other agencies, that might help them keep going?
Well, I wish I could say that we had clicked. I don't think we had, but I think it's a great start, and I hope it's the beginning of a dialogue. And it seems like the BBC are potentially willing to listen and enter into that dialogue, and I really welcome the support from people like Maggie in that. Even beyond that, beyond the BBC, I think there's a great opportunity for websites to come together and to network. I know that a few people have tried it before. I tried it before after the event that we ran at Ofcom in 2010. And I think it takes time, and it doesn't pay, and it's something on top of what many people already do without being paid. But some of us here today have had a word, and we're going to begin to meet together socially, informally, over a drink, perhaps thinking about inviting some people along to sit with us, not to speak, but as guests, if you like. So we can begin to build that thing out. If we can get the support of something like the BBC, that would be fantastic.